This exercise is all about adjusting and paying accrued expenses. So it says on April the 1st, the company retained an attorney for a flat fee, that's part A, of $2,500. This amount is paid to the attorney on the 12th day of the following month in which it was earned. So at the end of April, we're going to make an adjusting entry to debit legal fees expense for $2,500, and we're going to credit legal fees payable for $2,500. This is part A. Let's see what else we got. On May the 12th, it says this amount is payable to the attorney on May the 12th. And on May the 12th, we're actually going to make the payment. So we will debit legal fees payable, which was this payable we set up right over here on the end of April, and we're going to credit cash for $2,500. So at the end of that month, since we're doing adjusting entries on a monthly basis, we're going to make an adjustment for how much we owe at the end of April, and then on the 12th day of May, when we owe it, we're going to make the payment for the $2,500. Notice the expense is in the month in which we actually had the legal services, which was April, and the payment doesn't come until we have to pay it, which is the 12th day of the following month. That's part A. Part B, a $540,000 notes payable requires 8.9% annual interest, or $44,005 to be paid at the 20th day of each month. The interest was last paid on April the 20th, and next payment is due on May the 20th. And as of April the 30th, $1,335 interest expense has accrued. Alright, so we're going to make an adjusting entry at the end of April for the amount of interest that was accrued, that is the amount that we owe as of the end of April, for $1,335, and we will credit interest payable. This sets up the amount of the accrual that we owe as of the end of April, and let's go on a little bit further. That's based on this calculation, 8.9% times $540,000 times 10 over 360. We're going to use 360 in these calculations because these are considered business days. Anyway, that's the total of $1,335. On 5/20, when we actually make the payment, and let's see, the payment is going to be what we owe for that month, which would be interest. We're going to debit interest payable for $1,335. That's this interest payable, $1,335. We're going to debit interest expense, which is the amount of interest that we have accrued from the very beginning, which was a total of $4,005. That's the total amount of interest that we owe up through May the 20th. And you can see that some of that was accrued in April. That is, through April was accrued to be $1,335. The difference between the $430, the amount of interest that's accrued from $430 to $520, is another $2,670, and we're going to credit cash for the total, which is $4,005. All right, and that's based on 8.9% of the $540,000 times 20 days. So to make just recap this one, to make sure everybody understands this one, we took out this loan and made the last payment on this loan on April the 20th. So there's 10 days have gone by from April the 20th until we accrue our first interest payment, and that's going to be for $1,335, and that covers the correct amount of interest expense for April. In May, we're going to actually make the payment, and the payment is going to be for the entire time period from April the 20th until May the 20th. And so that's going to be a total payment of $4,005. and we're kind of straddling 2 months here. What we're doing is we're putting the 1335, we accrued that in the month of April, and then when we make the payment on May the 20th, there's the April accrual for 1335 and the amount of interest that we owe from that point on, that is from April 30th, or you might say May the 1st to May the 20th, is another 20 days, and that's $26.70. The total amount of the payment is going to be $4,005. Part B. Let's go on now to Part C. Part C, it says we have total weekly salaries expense for all employees is $8,000. This amount is paid at the end of the day on Friday of each 5-day work week. April 30th falls on a Tuesday this year, which means that the employees had worked 2 days since the last payday. The next payday is May the 3rd. So everybody gets every week $8,000. In this situation, our week falls, it ends, or excuse me, our month ends on a Tuesday. So we have 2 days in April that we're going to pay these people for, or they're going to accrue these people wages for, and we have 3 days in May. So that's a total of 5 days. So let's see how this splits up. On April the 30th, we owe them a total salary expense of $3,200. That's based on 2 days of the week times $8,000, or $3,200. So we're going to accrue the salaries at the end of April for a total of $3,200, and then in May we're going to actually make the payment on 5/3, and that'll be for the other 3 days. So you can see this week starts out Monday and Tuesday are in April, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday are in May, and that is going to be for 3 days. So the 3 days that we're going to pay them will be a salary expense in May that accumulates to $4,800, and we're going to pay the whole salary on May the 3rd, which will be a total of $8,000. It'll split up as follows: 2 days are going to be in April, which we accrued at the end of April, and there it is, the accrual being paid off on May the 3rd, and the other 3 days are going to be Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and that will be on May the 3rd, and that amounts to a current salary expense of $4,800. The total amount we're going to pay them on May the 3rd was for the full 5 days, which is $8,000. I believe we're done.